The story begins at Elmwood University, a small but prestigious college nestled in a quiet town. Elmwood had always prided itself on its safe, peaceful campus, where students wandered freely, and professors engaged in close-knit discussions with their classes. The school was known for its academic rigor and strong sense of community, a place where everyone felt seen and supported. For years, the university had avoided the troubles that often plagued larger institutions, and students and parents alike trusted Elmwood as a sanctuary of learning and safety. That sense of security was shattered when Emily Weaver, a talented junior majoring in literature, suddenly went missing one evening. Emily was widely admired on campus. With her wit, intelligence, and kindness, she had earned the respect of both her peers and her professors. She was involved in several clubs, spent her evenings tutoring other students in writing, and even volunteered at the local library. Emily's bright smile and friendly demeanor made her a beloved figure at Elmwood, and she seemed to have a promising future ahead of her. The last confirmed sighting of Emily was on a chilly autumn evening in late October. She had been seen leaving the library, carrying a stack of books and waving goodnight to the librarian before heading toward her dorm. The walk from the library to her dorm was short, just a few minutes across the main campus courtyard, a path lined with lampposts and often frequented by students. But on this night, Emily never made it back to her dorm room. When her roommate, Sarah, woke up the next morning to find Emily's bed untouched and her belongings still in place, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Emily was responsible, organized, and rarely deviated from her usual routines. Sarah waited for a few hours, hoping Emily would show up with an explanation, but as the day wore on, her worry grew. By that evening, Emily's friends and family were frantic with concern. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and messages remained unread. Word of her disappearance spread quickly across the campus, and within hours, professors and students alike were speculating about what might have happened. Campus security began an initial search, retracing her usual routes and questioning students who had been around the library that night. But nothing surfaced, not a single clue as to where Emily might have gone. There were no signs of struggle, no indication she had packed up and left on her own. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Days passed, and Emily's disappearance became the main topic of conversation on campus and in the surrounding community. Friends described her as cheerful and driven, with no signs of distress or conflict in her life. She had recently ended a relationship with her boyfriend, but it was reportedly amicable. She had no known enemies, and nothing in her behavior suggested she was planning to leave. As authorities began a formal investigation, students and parents watched anxiously, hoping for any updates that could explain the sudden, baffling vanishing of a young woman who had seemed to have it all. As more days went by with no new information, the local police and campus officials were forced to expand their search efforts. Search parties combed through nearby woods and fields, and law enforcement reviewed surveillance footage from the campus, hoping for any sign of Emily. But no leads emerged. Meanwhile, rumors spread like wildfire through the student body. Some claimed they had seen her leaving with a stranger, while others suspected she had run away due to academic pressures. But the most chilling theory, and the one that began to gain the most traction, was that Emily had been taken or harmed by someone on campus. With no body, no clear evidence, and no witnesses, investigators were left in a strange limbo. The more they looked, the less they found, as if every possible lead led to a dead end. The safe, idyllic campus of Elmwood had suddenly become a place of fear and mystery. Students were now on edge, parents worried for their children, and professors looked over their shoulders, all haunted by the knowledge that someone among them might know more than they were saying, or worse, that someone responsible was still at large, blending in with the rest of the community. As the investigation progressed, Emily's dorm room became a crucial focal point for clues. Police carefully examined every inch, looking for any sign that could help explain her disappearance. Her belongings were meticulously organized, giving no hint that she had left in a hurry or had packed for a journey. Her textbooks were stacked on her desk, notebooks filled with class notes lay open, and a half-full cup of coffee sat cold by her bedside, as if she had planned to return soon. But in her belongings, investigators found something that raised their suspicions: a small, worn leather journal tucked away in her dresser, filled with entries that hinted at a much darker side of her life. At first, the journal seemed like a typical college student's musings, reflections on her classes, plans for the future, notes about friendships, and mentions of her recent breakup. However, as they read further, police discovered a series of increasingly disturbing entries written in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. In these pages, Emily expressed growing feelings of paranoia and fear, suggesting she believed someone had been watching her. She wrote of strange encounters around campus, shadows she'd seen in the corners of her eye, footsteps that seemed to follow her, and a creeping sense of unease that had started to consume her daily life. The journal revealed that Emily had become convinced that she was being stalked, though she didn't know by whom. She described incidents in unsettling detail: a stranger standing outside her classroom one afternoon, staring intently; another instance where she had heard faint whispers in the hallway at night, only to find no one there. Her words conveyed her anxiety, yet she had kept her fears largely to herself, not wanting to alarm her friends or family. The entries painted a haunting picture of a young woman isolated by her own fears, uncertain if she was in genuine danger or if it was all just her imagination. The investigators took these entries seriously, treating them as potential leads. They questioned Emily's friends and classmates to see if anyone had witnessed anything unusual, but most were unaware of her fears. She had confided in only a select few, and none of them had taken her concerns seriously at the time, thinking it was just the stress of college life. Police continued their search for any clues of a stalker, sifting through surveillance footage and interviewing anyone who might have crossed paths with her. Yet no one seemed to know anything concrete, and Emily's stalker, if one even existed, remained a mystery. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered an unsettling pattern in Emily's movements. In the days before she disappeared, she had made several late-night visits to the abandoned theater building on the edge of campus, a structure that had been closed for years due to safety hazards. This building, known as the Seymour Theater, was old and worn, its creaking floorboards and dimly lit corridors making it an eerie place, avoided by most students. Yet, for reasons unknown, Emily had chosen to visit it frequently and alone. Surveillance footage showed her entering late at night, but never exiting on the evenings she visited it. Each time, she would stay for hours, her silhouette barely visible in the shadows cast by the broken windows. This discovery puzzled detectives and raised further questions. Why would Emily go there, particularly at night, when the building was not only off-limits but also notoriously eerie? They speculated that she might have been meeting someone in secret or following some lead related to her growing fears. Her journal did not mention the theater specifically, but one entry mentioned a dark meeting place where she felt she was not alone. Investigators wondered if this could be referring to the theater, and they began to suspect that Emily had uncovered something there, or had been lured there by someone else. Following this lead, the police conducted a thorough search of the theater, examining every room, stairwell, and forgotten corner. The building's cold, drafty halls echoed with a disturbing silence as they combed through its dust-covered floors and broken glass windows. Yet, despite their efforts, they found no sign of Emily or any evidence that she had been harmed there. The only trace of her presence was a single earring found beneath a staircase, a match to the one she was known to wear frequently. With no witnesses and no solid leads, the theater only deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance. It became clear to the investigators that Emily had been driven by something powerful, something that had led her to investigate on her own. But whatever she had been searching for within those dark walls remained hidden, and the theater's secrets remained sealed, offering only fragments of a story they could not yet piece together. As the search for Emily Weaver intensified, police expanded their investigation to include everyone who had close ties to her, uncovering complex relationships that suggested her life was far less simple than it had first seemed. Among those closest to her was her ex-boyfriend, Jason Brooks, a popular athlete known around campus for his outgoing personality and charm. Jason had dated Emily for over a year, and their breakup had come as a surprise to many. When questioned by police, he claimed they had ended things amicably, yet friends noted that he had been acting differently since the split, exhibiting mood swings and what some described as a possessive streak. Jason quickly emerged as a prime suspect. Investigators dug deeper into Jason's alibi for the night Emily disappeared. He claimed to have been at a campus event with friends, but when his alibi was scrutinized, holes began to appear. A few friends mentioned he had left the event early, and no one seemed to recall exactly when he had returned to his dorm that night. Adding to the suspicion, several students mentioned that he had been trying to rekindle his relationship with Emily, despite her insistence that it was over. Some even reported overhearing tense conversations between the two in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Though nothing was certain, Jason's behavior began to paint a picture of a young man unwilling to let go. Alongside Jason, another key figure in Emily's life also became a focus of police scrutiny: Dr. Mark Holt, her literature professor and academic advisor. Dr. Holt was widely respected, known for his dedication to his students and his passion for literature. Emily had taken several of his courses, and over time their student-teacher relationship had grown unusually close. Students whispered about Dr. Holt's tendency to show favoritism, often spending extra time mentoring Emily, which had raised a few eyebrows. While his commitment to his students was well known, there were rumors that his mentorship occasionally crossed professional boundaries. Some students even claimed they had seen Emily and Dr. Holt meeting alone in his office late into the evening. When police questioned Dr. Holt, he seemed visibly nervous, which only deepened their suspicions. He admitted that he had become close to Emily and even confessed that she had confided in him about her fears of being watched. However, he claimed to have no idea who might have been following her or why she felt targeted. He painted himself as a concerned mentor, insisting that he only wanted to help her navigate her troubles. Yet, his unease during questioning raised doubts, and detectives couldn't shake the feeling that he might know more than he was letting on. Complicating matters further was a final entry in Emily's journal that mentioned a meeting with someone referred to only as S. The cryptic reference puzzled detectives and added a new layer of intrigue. At first, they assumed it was shorthand for a person, possibly a secret friend or acquaintance Emily had been meeting on the side, but no one in her life seemed to match the letters S, leaving the investigators with more questions than answers. Was S a nickname, an alias, or even a reference to a location on campus? Detectives scoured her social media profiles and text messages, but found no direct clues. The complexity of Emily's relationships and her cryptic notes suggested that her disappearance might not have been random. It was as if she had uncovered something significant, something that frightened her enough to write about it in code. Despite the strange clues and a growing list of potential suspects, nothing concrete emerged. Jason's alibi, though shaky, couldn't be fully disproven. Dr. Holt's nervousness didn't amount to evidence and remained an enigma, haunting the investigation and frustrating detectives at every turn. The case became a labyrinth of dead ends, and investigators found themselves stuck. Each potential lead raised new questions, but none provided the definitive answers they needed. Friends and faculty who once brushed off Emily's fears began to wonder if they had missed something crucial, something that might have saved her. As the investigation wore on, the sense of unease on campus grew deeper, casting a shadow over what had once been an idyllic place for learning and discovery. The police were now caught between two suspects, both plausible, yet neither definitively tied to the crime. It was as if Emily had slipped into a hidden realm of secrets, one known only to her and the unknown person she had met as S. The mystery grew colder, and the investigation stalled, leaving everyone involved to question if they would ever uncover the truth of what had happened to Emily Weaver. Several weeks after Emily's disappearance, a shocking breakthrough emerged that reignited the investigation. A campus maintenance worker, while cleaning the stairwell in the abandoned theater, discovered a small dark stain on the worn floorboards. Initially, he thought nothing of it, assuming it was paint or another harmless residue, but something about the color and placement caught his eye. He notified campus security, who quickly called in the police. Forensic teams arrived and confirmed the worst. It was blood, and after DNA analysis, it matched Emily Weaver. The discovery changed the entire nature of the investigation. Up until then, detectives had been working on the assumption that Emily might have been kidnapped, hiding, or even the victim of a non-violent crime. Now they were almost certain foul play was involved. The revelation sparked renewed interest in the case, capturing media headlines and deepening fears among the student body. The bloodstain suggested Emily had been harmed, possibly fatally, in the very theater she had been visiting so often in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. It was the first hard evidence of violence, and it sent a ripple of dread through the campus. Detectives combed through the abandoned theater meticulously, inspecting every corner and inch of floor for more evidence. The Seymour Theater was a large, decrepit building with numerous stairwells, hidden rooms, and narrow hallways, all filled with dust and remnants of its long abandoned state. Investigators noted the eerie, neglected atmosphere that would have made the building unsettling even for a daring student like Emily. The old theater had a maze-like quality, with doors leading to dead ends, narrow crawl spaces, and an unfinished basement that seemed to stretch on indefinitely. It would have been easy to get lost inside, and easy for someone to hide if they didn't want to be found. Despite their thorough search, detectives found nothing beyond the bloodstain itself. No sign of Emily's body, no weapons, and no clues as to what had happened there that night. Forensic analysis suggested that the amount of blood found was small, implying it might not have been enough to prove a fatal injury. But given the location and circumstances, it painted a troubling picture. Investigators wondered if Emily had been attacked, injured, or even killed in that very spot, her body hidden or removed without a trace. The theater's many exits and concealed corridors made it an ideal location for someone to carry out a crime without being seen. As the investigation continued, police turned their attention back to the main suspects. The discovery of blood intensified the scrutiny on both Jason and Dr. Holt, who now found themselves under constant surveillance and public suspicion. The pressure of the media attention and the weight of the evidence seemed to affect them both. Jason's friends noted that he had grown increasingly withdrawn, barely attending classes or social gatherings. Meanwhile, Dr. Holt, though still teaching, appeared tense and anxious, as if he were carrying a heavy burden. Detectives watched both men closely, hoping one of them might make a mistake or reveal something incriminating. Further complicating the investigation were new rumors that spread like wildfire across campus. Students whispered about hauntings, claiming to hear strange sounds in the theater at night, footsteps echoing in empty hallways, whispers that seemed to come from nowhere, and eerie lights flashing in darkened rooms. These rumors added to the campus's growing fear, turning Seymour Theater into a focal point for superstition and intrigue. Some students speculated that Emily's spirit was still there, trapped, leaving clues that could lead to her whereabouts. Though detectives dismissed these stories as hysteria, the heightened atmosphere of fear made it increasingly difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. The discovery of blood in the theater led investigators to consider a chilling possibility: that Emily's disappearance might be connected to a deeper, more disturbing history on campus. As they dug through university archives, they uncovered reports of several other mysterious disappearances over the decades, each occurring near or within the old theater building. Though none of these cases had involved a confirmed homicide, each bore uncanny similarities to Emily's case. Students reported missing, strange incidents near the theater, and clues that led nowhere. Elmwood University's once pristine reputation began to crumble as past and present rumors of violence and cover-ups collided. The theater, once merely an old off-limits building, had now become a symbol of terror and mystery, a place forever associated with Emily's disappearance. Campus administrators came under fire for failing to secure the theater, and the university faced immense pressure from students, parents, and the public to do more. Some even suggested closing the theater for good, claiming it had been cursed by the tragedies associated with it. In the end, though the discovery of blood was a significant breakthrough, it offered few answers and raised even more questions. The investigation had gone from a missing person case to a suspected murder without a body, and each piece of evidence only seemed to deepen the mystery. Seymour Theater, with its winding halls and tragic history, loomed large in everyone's minds, a place that held secrets yet to be uncovered. But with no clear evidence, no weapon, and no body, the question remained: what had truly happened to Emily Weaver in the dark, abandoned theater, and who, or what, was responsible? As the weeks stretched into months, the investigation into Emily Weaver's disappearance began to grow cold. Despite the bloodstain discovered in the abandoned theater, detectives had found no further physical evidence, no body, and no weapon. The promising leads on suspects, her ex-boyfriend Jason Brooks and her literature professor Dr. Mark Holt, had fizzled out, as neither man could be conclusively linked to the crime. Public interest waned, and while the campus remained on edge, there was little anyone could do. But then, a surprising turn came in the form of a tip from an unexpected source. A first-year student who had been conducting research on the university's history as part of a class project. The student, Sarah Mitchell, came forward after finding disturbing records from decades prior in the university archives. These documents revealed a hidden chapter in Elmwood University's history, one filled with strange disappearances, unexplained events, and even allegations of cult-like activities centered around the old theater. Most of the files were sparse, incomplete, or classified as unsolved, But a pattern was apparent. For nearly half a century, several students had vanished from the campus, most often from areas near the Seymour Theater, and none of these cases had ever been resolved. The fact that these cases had been largely forgotten was no coincidence. There were allegations that the university had worked to suppress these stories, fearing damage to its reputation. Intrigued and disturbed by the similarities between Emily's disappearance and these past incidents, detectives began piecing together a timeline of suspicious activity around the theater. As they dug deeper, they learned that the theater had a long-standing reputation as a haunted site among students and staff, and over the years, it had attracted all manner of thrill-seekers, secret societies, and people drawn to its eerie atmosphere. Some rumors hinted at ritualistic gatherings that took place there in the 1970s, but no concrete evidence had ever been found to substantiate these claims. Still, there was a lingering sense that the theater held dark secrets, and that Emily might have stumbled upon something forbidden. The investigators, now focused on this angle, returned to Emily's journal entries, re-examining her notes and references to her fears and meetings. It was then that they noticed something new. One entry, which they had initially overlooked, mentioned a strange symbol Emily claimed to have seen carved into the walls of the theater. The symbol was described as a circle with intersecting lines, surrounded by faint, unreadable inscriptions. This symbol appeared again in another entry, where Emily mentioned feeling an inexplicable sense of dread every time she saw it, as if it were somehow watching her. This detail seemed innocuous at first, but grew more sinister in light of the new revelations about the theater's history. With this new information, detectives searched the theater once again, specifically looking for the symbol Emily described. Deep in the basement, hidden behind a broken mirror, they found it. A faded, carved insignia matching her description exactly. Surrounding the symbol were faint markings that looked like names, barely visible, but unmistakably etched into the wall. As they examined the carvings, they realized with a chill that these names matched those of several students who had disappeared over the years. The final name, scratched faintly, seemed to be unfinished, as if someone had been interrupted. Emily Weaver. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation, suggesting a link between Emily and the other missing students, something far more sinister than anyone had imagined. Detectives hypothesized that Emily, while exploring the theater, had uncovered this strange symbol and the history associated with it, perhaps triggering her fear and paranoia. Could she have been followed by someone else who had noticed her curiosity? Someone determined to keep the theater's secrets buried? The case took on an ominous new dimension as investigators speculated about the possibility of a secret group operating on campus committed to maintaining the theater's hidden history. This group, if it still existed, seemed intent on ensuring that its activities and rituals remained undiscovered, silencing anyone who came too close to the truth. Emily, in her quest to uncover the meaning of the symbol, might have unwittingly stumbled into a trap set by those determined to protect the theater's secrets at any cost. With this revelation, authorities faced a dilemma. Without concrete proof of who had been responsible or how the group operated, they could not pursue further leads. The story of Emily Weaver remained unsolved, a chilling reminder of the dark undercurrents lurking beneath the surface of the seemingly safe and idyllic campus. The discovery of the symbol and the other missing students' names etched in the theater's walls suggested a sinister legacy, but one that would remain unproven without tangible evidence. In the end, the case went unsolved. Emily Weaver became another name in a long list of students who had disappeared near the theater, each case marked by eerie similarities but no conclusive answers. The university attempted to move forward, fencing off the theater permanently, boarding up its windows, and locking its doors for good. Yet, the mystery of what had happened to Emily lingered, a silent weight on the shoulders of those who remained on campus. Students told ghost stories about her spirit wandering the halls, forever tied to the secrets she had uncovered but could never reveal. And Seymour Theater, now abandoned and decaying, remained a haunting monument to the hidden tragedies and strange disappearances that had plagued Elmwood University, a place that held its secrets close and would likely never reveal them.